Okay, good, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna call a meeting in order and join me in the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Eater. Here. Councilor Escorta. Here. Councilor Donovan. Here. Councilor Ott is absent. Councilor Hoover. Here. Councilor Bow. Here. Our student councilor Hill is absent tonight. And Mayor Wall.
Here. Okay. And item 4. I'm going to give you my state of the city address. I'm gonna stand up here so you can see. So good evening and welcome to 2024. I'd like to share some of my thoughts with you as we begin a new year. And since we have a relatively light agenda tonight, I'm trying to keep this under 2 hours. Okay, so I'm very optimistic about our future in Mount Angel, although it will be very challenging. And as a community, we will need to meet our challenges head on. Fortunately, we have great tools to work with as we meet those challenges. As I talk with mayors all over Oregon, I can tell you that as a community, we are very, very fortunate. We have an excellent city manager and staff, a good dedicated city council. While we don't always agree as a council, we work well together. And I can't find any hidden agendas. And trust me when I say that's not always the case. You know that, don't you? And then more importantly, we have an active and supportive community. We host one of the most successful community festivals in the nation, put on by 19 dedicated board members, and it's supported by thousands of volunteers. We have an excellent school district. It has wonderful community support. It is witnessed by such a positive vote in the school bond last year. We have many active community organizations that work extremely hard to help make Mount Angel a desirable place to live and raise a family. And I'm afraid if I try to name them all, I'd leave somebody else. You all know who they are and what they do for the city. Earlier, I mentioned our challenges moving forward. And I'd like to specifically point out some of the more important ones that I see so we can focus on them in the next few years and beyond. The one that is on all of our minds is infrastructure. It's aging and needs constant attention and upgrades. We have completed an earlier project a few years ago, identifying and determining the cost to complete the needed upgrades. Read that, dollar costs are staggering. So if anyone has a rich uncle who has multi-millions they would like to donate to help us, please let me know and I'll call and come over and see personally. Short of that, we need to manage our resources wisely and fix things on our own, which will be way beyond our means. Our staff will work diligently to identify grant opportunities and assist us with these projects. But even with the amounts available from any grants we may receive, we will not come close to our needs. So we need to plan carefully and identify the most important projects and prioritize them. We have started the planning process by authorizing new Boston Water Master Plan to be completed by our city engineer. One of the bills I see that's already started. That's only one leg of our stool. Need to address and plan for all of our infrastructure, including wastewater, storm drainage, transportation, parks, etc. And how we accomplish that remains to be decided, but it will be a necessary step for the city to move. Later this evening, I'm going to ask the council to set a special workshop meeting soon so that we can address these issues in a cohesive and competent manner. Until these plans are complete, it would be folly for us to set realistic and necessary goals for the city, followed by a long-range overall strategic plan. In addition to our utilities, another challenge we face is construction of a new City Hall police station. We've evaluated our current building, and we know it's not acceptable for seismic and other reasons in the long term. We made what I think was an excellent move by identifying and purchasing property with dollars that we've been setting aside for construction of a new facility. Now all we need is several $1 million to design and build it. We need that uncle again. But to build it, it's going to take strong support from our citizens, because however we decide to finance the building, in some manner, they will be asked to pay for it. Needless to say, we have a lot on our plate in the future, and I'm confident that we have the talent and desire in Mount Angel to accomplish great things. We're also experiencing some growth in Mount Angel, and apparently there's more to come. I'm concerned that we plan the growth with the concept that we maintain livability of Mount Angel. Growth for growth's sake is not the answer. Well-planned growth makes Mount Angel a desirable place to live, should be what we all strive for. And I'm confident we will be successful in that regard. Sorry. Another thought I'd like to share is a very valuable asset, human resources. I mentioned earlier that we have an excellent city manager and staff. I've been around a little while, and in my opinion right now, we collectively have the best staff we've had. Done a good job of recognizing and developing strong, talented people within our organization. We need to continue to train and develop their skills. We reward them with good benefits and salaries within our means. Make succession planning priority. Within each department. It's increasingly difficult to attract talented people to public service. So we should do our best to develop their skills and retain them in our organization. Well, thank you. Let me try this. I don't have a couple. While I still have your attention and you're all awake, thank you for staying awake. I'm going to wrap this up. I'd like to take a minute to recognize our City Council President. My research is correct. He was first elected to the City Council in 2006. So as we do the math, he's in our 18th year of service. I've been able to work with him in one capacity or another for several of those years. People like Ray are the reason I personally oppose term limits. Ray has a very steadying influence on the council. He's devoted countless hours to serving our community. He has a great memory most of the time. What? I just added that, it's not written in the speech. But he's very helpful with sharing his experiences with the council and staff. I'm very lucky to have him and his willingness to serve our city. He's midterm, so he can't get out now. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Finally, 2024 is an election year. I want to share my plans moving forward. I want to share them now so others may have the time to think about and decide what they may do. I just mentioned I personally oppose term limits. I have decided to term limit myself. It's my intention to not seek re-election to the office of mayor. And between being a city manager here and also an elected official, I have several years of service, and I believe it's time to step aside. I've enjoyed pretty much every minute of all this time. I'm planning on finishing my term, and I'll do my best to serve the community effectively during this final year. That's it. Thank you all. I'm looking forward to a successful 2024 in the city. Thank you very much. I'm done. Now, we have next on the agenda our audit presentation. And I think somebody's here.
Well, I'm here virtually tonight.
Oh,
So,
I'll virtually
yes,
listen to you.
sounds great. Thank you for having me tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to present the results of our audit of the city for the year ended June 30, 2023. So once again, I'm pleased that we had the opportunity to work with city staff. I can tell you my staff really enjoys working with your staff. They are very helpful in conducting our audit. They answer all our annoying questions. They get us all the documents we ask for. It's a great place to come audit. My staff really enjoys working with your staff. So I do want to give that compliment to your staff there in City Hall. So the financial statements, we have issued our report on them. And I'd point out first that these financial statements are on the modified cash basis of accounting. So that's not generally accepted accounting principles, but it is an acceptable basis of accounting under Oregon law. So these comply with all the requirements of Oregon law. And we have given what we consider to be an unmodified opinion, which basically says that in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material specs the financial position and results of operations of the city for the year ended June 30, 2023. So where did the city end up? Well, you got kind of a little bit of a mixed bag here. When we look at your governmental funds, your governmental activities, that's mainly your your general fund, your street fund, your two SDC funds for transportation and parks, as well as the housing rehab fund. When we look at all those together, you had an overall, decrease of about $433,000 in your fund balance. That almost entirely is made up of what happened in the general fund. General fund had a decrease of $360,000, and the street fund then had a decrease of $196,000. So those two funds really account for what happened there in terms of a decrease in your overall fund balance or equity for the governmental funds and activities. On the other hand, with your proprietary or your business type funds and activities, they had an overall increase of $1.3 million. with that being split almost 50-50 between the water and sewer. Water had an increase of 574,000. Your sewer had an increase of 640,000, and then the stormwater also added another 120,000 to your overall increase in those funds and activities. So governmental funds had a slight decrease. I would point out, though, you still look at your general fund, which has ended the year with a fund balance of $3.3 million. Well, that represents just about 1 year's worth of expenditures for the city's general fund, which is actually, a pretty healthy fund balance to be carrying forward. So, that means, if you got no revenues next year, you would be able to basically continue operating for at least 1 more year. So that's a healthy, position to have. Of course, obviously, you're still going to keep getting your revenues. Your property taxes is your primary revenue for the general fund. That comes in at just over $1 million. And then your next is your franchise fees, which comes in about 200,000. So overall, it's not that bad in terms of, the decrease. That's basically about from last year, it's not quite a 10% decrease in your fund balances on the governmental funds. Now, if you read through the financial statements, you go through the basic financial statements, and then you get to the notes. And the notes do go on for quite some time. But I want to point out one kind of note in particular, and that's the note on your participation in Oregon PERS. Now, because you operate on or you report on a modified cash basis of accounting, the city doesn't report its share of the PERS liability. So you won't find this in the financial statements anywhere, or even in the notes. But at June 30, 2022, your share of the PERS net pension liability, if you were to report it, is just over $1.2 million. So, if you were on the GAAP basis, that'd be the biggest thing, is you'd end up with this big, liability for your share of that PERS liability. And that liability is subject to a lot of fluctuations. But I did want to just point out, because, obviously, as you go forward, we all know one of the most expensive things for cities is personnel costs. When you look at, what you have to pay people, you look at the benefits you have to offer, and then you add in also this Oregon PERS. I mean, that is your single largest area of cost. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But, you have to think about, part of that PERS is, also you have that $1.2 million, your share of that liability. So it is one of those things that, of course, as auditors, when we come in and do an audit, particularly a city of your size, knowing the payroll is your biggest area, we'll spend quite a bit of time auditing that to make sure everything is right. But I did want to point out that one liability that's not reported. And then, in addition to our report on the financial statements themselves, we also have a report under the requirements of the Oregon Minimum Standards. And Oregon Minimum Standards requires us to perform tests for certain Oregon laws and regulations to determine whether the city was in compliance or not. The only item, we have one minor comment regarding just kind of the makeup of your resolution when you make appropriations on the budget. And we've talked to Tara about this, and this will be corrected going forward. But essentially, you're supposed to have separate amounts for contingencies and transfers in each fund that has those. So in the past, they've just been kind of lumped in with everything else. So that's our only comment in the whole thing of any negative. So with that, do you have any questions I could answer for you? And I don't know where to find the millions of dollars you need to build the new city hall. I'm sorry, I don't have that answer either.
There was the first question.
Well, that's it. We need to get a new auditor then.
What was the largest contributor to the decline in the position of the general fund?
Well, you think about how just, you've budgeted. And, the general fund, everything was expended within budget. And so you look at the makeup of the general fund's revenues, and you've budgeted for, or last year you budgeted with total revenues of just under $1.5 million. Okay. And then you also have transfers in that were anticipated of $1.3 million. So overall, that gives you, roughly, in very round numbers, $2.8 million of resources in the general fund that you've budgeted for. And the good news is, you came in a little bit above a budget for your revenues. So you actually, were good there by about $200,000. But when you're budgeting your expenditures that you budgeted for last year were $5.9 million. And so by the very nature of it, you're budgeting to have a reduction in your fund balance. And of course, your actual expenditures came out to be just under 3.2 million. So all those things kind of come together, why you had that decrease in your general fund. I mean, you're basically every year when you're doing your general fund budget, you're budgeting as if you're going to spend all your money. Of course, you never do. But that gives you the flexibility in case something happens, you can make expenditures without, going through a lot of extra hoops. And of course, the largest department for expenditures is your police department. And I know from talking with other jurisdictions, finding police officers, recruiting them and training them and then retaining them is tough.
Thank you. Yeah, close enough. Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, then. Well, thank you for that presentation, and know that you kind of have an open door policy, and if any counselor has any questions, they can always call you, correct?
That is correct. They can always reach out to me anytime they want.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate very much the opportunity to present to you tonight. Thank you.
Oh,
Bye.
Okay. Okay, next is appearance of interested citizens. You don't have anyone on Zoom? We don't have any visitors on Zoom?
No, I don't think so, unless Mr. Kehoe wants to say anything.
Apparently not.
If that doesn't him,
Okay. And no correspondence?
no.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7, our accounts payable report. We'll go around for council questions. I'll start with Council Hooper.
Have anything?
Council Fowl,
Good, thank you.
pardon?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, okay, thank you. Councilor Storga,
Wouldn't have a question on the discrepancy of any of the billing per se, but I just want to know if there is something that we could do to keep our like oil changes here local and just pick any shop and get a contract with them or something.
The problem is with the local shops that we've had experience with, they don't have factory training for police vehicles and all that type of thing.
Okay.
And I have a staff that is represented by a labor organization. And I know that in other organizations that are represented by labor organizations, such as ours, that is not beyond the realm of possibilities for them to file some type of action against the city. As a
Agreement,
result
yeah.
to unsafe conditions, and I refuse to allow them to drive anything that's safety. And as we've discussed with previous mayors, there's been one shop in town with one vehicle that has been re-repaired at least 3 times. And should have been repaired correctly the first time, so I'm doing all I can. If we have somebody who's factory trained and could certify on our emergency vehicles in particular, then that'd be great.
Well, I'm just talking all city fleet vehicles. not-
Yeah, well, and I'll let Alan speak to his fleet. I mean, we're now starting to get them actually serviced.
Mhm.
And get the fleet, I would say, turned around, if you will, we have a plan. But I don't think locally there's really anybody that can service our big diesels. Because that usually goes like to Brooks or, someplace like that. right?
Goes to Papping and Salem probably.
I think there's a Freightliner or something down the road. That's where we've taken our dump trucks, back trucks.
No, it's just a question, but.
I'd love to, Tony, but it's tough.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Tony?
Nope, that's it.
Counselor Donahue?
I'm good.
Counselor here.
2 questions. So on the Civil West Engineering, the kickoff meeting, do we know what the water master plan is gonna cost us?
Yeah, he sent it the. Quote, but I don't remember what it was.
I was in state work, wasn't
I did.
Around 120.
The water was 95,338.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then, the South Main Water Project, and is that all paid by ARPA funds?
Not all of it.
Not all of it? And what's the total cost on that?
I got 369.
Something like that.
Yeah,
And are they basically done?
yeah, they gotta make 2 more connections, so they're making a connection. At Main Street, and then they're gonna have to make a connection in the Benedictine parking lot, and then hook up the laterals, and then they're done.
And are they
And
gonna
then they're
do,
gonna go back and repave all their crossings,
Oh, yeah,
final
yeah.
paving.
That might sit as cold patch for a little bit. If I can get a paper.
that was my next question. The thump will go away.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's all I have.
I'm gonna make it, I have a question about we pay Boley a prevailing wage fee for our projects. That's different from the old days. What is that for?
I'll let Alan say that, because you filled out the paperwork.
Yes, I did. I'm learning. I did fill it out. Colby helped me do this. So.
What was the question? I'm taking notes. So the question was,
Why we pay Boley prevailing wage fee
It's,
on our
I
project?
can't remember, it's 0.001% of the total project cost.
it's called notification of public works, and you have to submit a form 39 and a form 81. And you submit a minimum of $250 up to a maximum of $7,500, and it's 0.01% of the project cost. And that is basically a funding mechanism for Boley in their efforts to police is the wrong word, administer the wage rate rules and labor laws of the state. I don't know if that's a proper way to put it, but I know that they monitor all public projects. And I know this because I put something out to bid, and then we've chosen not to award it. But they monitor it to the point they called me and they said, we don't have a notification of public work for this project. And so it helps fund their administration of the labor laws of the state.
So to sum that up, then it's another example of us paying to allow them to pass a mandate on us.
Basically a tax.
Huh?
It's basically,
Yeah.
basically a tax, yes.
So that's one.
It's a governmental fee that is unfortunately now unnecessary.
And then the only other one, this is a comment, I try and make it every year. We pay the Ethics Commission a fee to police us back and on their mandates, and I certainly support the concept of government ethics program, always have. I just don't like us to have to pay to support that program, so it's just a general complaint that I have, so.
Well, you could add.
One of these days, somebody's gonna. Thank you. That's all I have. Okay, we're gonna move on to the consent agenda, minutes of December 4th, 2023. If there are no additions or corrections, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
As presented.
Thank you. We have a motion by Council Fowle, second by Council Hofer, to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Counselor Hill is absent. Counselor Fowle.
Aye.
Counselor Eater.
Aye.
Counselor Hofer.
Aye.
Counselor Astoria.
Aye.
Counselor Donahue. Aye. Counselor Ott is absent. Mayor Wall.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And next items are new business. We have a budget calendar review, which is information only. Anyone have any questions of our
I just,
finance director about that budget calendar?
are these all at a certain time? Is it 7 o'clock? It's like, we'll be the council meeting
Yes,
or?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'll just put that, because I'm kind of filling up the calendar already.
Okay, yes.
We needed a time.
Yes, we could have met 2 weeks prior to the April 25th, but then we had to take a break because the planning commission is always the third Thursday. So I thought, you know what, let's just start the 25th and we'll go from there. So 7 o'clock. Thursday.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Let's go on to item 10B. Adopting a master fee schedule, resolution number 1584.
So by reading this, I assume this is just the annual allowable update to the development charges.
Yes,
And
and then a few other housekeeping cleanup stuff that we found.
so as an annual fee adjustment that we make. Okay.
One of the questions I had was, the staff and time per hour TBD is,
Yeah, I want to put an amount, but with everything going on at City Hall, I didn't have a chance to sit down with Mark and figure out if we're gonna start, what our rate is gonna be, but it's gonna be a set rate. But we need
Okay,
to
it's
talk
like
about, it.
hourly rate or?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. Because we need to factor in possibly overtime hours, that people are having to stay late to be here for a meeting. We wanna charge the customer appropriately, so we need to make sure we come to a conclusion on that.
so you're talking about like a council meeting or planning commission meeting or?
No, this is for when a community member wants to rent the community room outside of library hours, because our liability requires them to have access to the town. So we need to have a staff person on hand,
Okay,
and they can choose to do that and or not do that. So if they choose to do that, then they know that they're gonna pay this.
this extra amount, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Sarah, I would just add one thing, that it's also optional for a staff person to choose. to
Oh,
do
right,
that.
right.
So there's, just because somebody says, yes, we'll pay it. There has to be a city, and it could be any city staff member, but there needs to be a staff member that is willing to do it.
It's not an automatic.
Okay. That was the only question thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Entertain a motion on resolution 1584.
I move to approve the attached resolution adopting a master fee schedule for services provided by the city of Mount Angel.
Second. Motion by Counselor Fowle, second by Counselor Hooper.
But we're gonna have to amend this resolution later on, since it's the fee technically, or the staff time per hour rate isn't written in here, so we're gonna have to amend this later on.
Problem, yeah.
We can pass it as is now, but we're gonna have to revisit this again.
Well, we should pass it now just because
Right.
Okay, roll call please.
Councilor Bob is absent. Councilor Hill is absent. Councilor Bob.
Aye.
Councilor Eater.
Aye.
Councilor Hooker.
Aye.
Councilor Astorga.
Aye.
Councilor Donahue. Aye. Mayor Wall.
Hi. Okay, moving right along, we are up to city manager's report.
So before I get my report, did you want to talk with council about the work session?
I'll do that in the mayor's report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, then, as I mentioned in my, end of year update, I'm going to be using some community prosperity grant money that the city acquired from Marion County to support local businesses by taking an ad out in the Travel Salem book, which publishes, and they publish about 250,000 copies that goes to places like PDX and everywhere that tourists. They'll pick up this Travel Salem book, which will have a full page ad advertising our community and enticing people to come here. For perhaps more than just Oktoberfest, but I hope to include as much as I possibly can in that one page ad. We do need to get some pictures. So if you have any pictures of the community, other than perhaps at Oktoberfest time, that might look good in a brochure magazine style full page ad, I'd be happy to look at them and perhaps submit them. I'm asking them for help in putting our ad together. So it's professionally done as opposed to me just kind of whipping some stuff together. So it doesn't cost us any more money, but it'll make it look really, really good, I think. So if you have any pictures, please send them to me. All the artwork of that is due to them in theory on Friday. So the City Hall flooring project has turned out in a very positive manner. We started putting the office back together today and anticipate at least front office staff being back in place very soon. Tara has been an absolute superstar seeing this project through and deserves more credit than I can possibly say right now for managing this project and even volunteering all of her time yesterday to paint the walls inside City Hall. It looks phenomenal. She's a master painter. Don't let her tell you anything.
No, I was in the business for a while.
So,
Are we gonna have an open house when it's done?
yeah,
Okay.
we'll have an open house. But we were talking about today, we really do believe that it will be a positive improvement and provide for a healthier workspace for everybody. So it's very cool. I'm very, very proud of how it looks. It just looks so amazing inside there. We still have a lot of projects going on that nobody brought up, and maybe you will bring them up, but I'll perhaps hit on a few before you ask me during your council comment time. We're still waiting to hear back from our planner in regards to parking cars on private property. This issue, as we've discussed, belongs in the development code. And so we're waiting to hear back from them in regards to that issue. The grind and overlay pavement improvement near the fountain at the railroad crossing. I believe we're still waiting on bids from companies before moving ahead with our new friends at the railroad. I'm still waiting on grant information so that we can put in for the grant money to fix it right. To the tune of probably a quarter to a $30 million. So I think we can get it. It's just a matter of going through the process and applying for the money. But we're gonna be working with the railroad to do that. And then we talked about the South Main Waterline project. I'm still waiting to hear back from ODOT in regards to the Safe Route to School issue up at Oaken Church. Prior to the holidays, I did have a couple online and telephone meetings with some folks about that, and I hope to be hearing, now that we're beyond the holidays, hope to be hearing from them soon about how we're going to perhaps change it just a little bit. Staff and I are happy to answer any questions you might have. On a final note, I will be out of the office attending the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police and the OAC or the OPOA Sheriff's Conference in Seaside next week. All I have.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions of the city manager? No? Okay.
Got 3 things off my list.
Okay. I didn't know I could read minds too. That's not a job description. Okay, so we're gonna go to council report. I'll start with Council President Eder.
Are we coordinating yet?
Not yet.
Okay. And we'll notice a difference in the taste? Say sure.
I would imagine you'd probably start tasting chlorine, minor, you know, a little bit. It's probably definitely gonna taste different.
We will likely do some community education starting next month. Just to at least get the information out there for people so they can chew on it and come to council, do whatever they wish to do for a couple of months before actually they'll switch. I know that we've been waiting on bids to come back for the chlorination system for well 6. We're moving ahead.
And then I noticed, are not all the policemen taking advantage of a vehicle to take home?
Well, I'm still down a position. And then I'm not letting our brand new guy take a car home yet. In fact, he's driving the oldest car that we have until he's a little bit better trained. So yeah, a couple of the cars have been sitting.
I think I counted 5 the other day, but so they kind of come and go, I guess.
They do.
Okay.
Depends on when you're coming by and depends on who's working, you know, so.
Okay.
Everybody other than Hector is taking a car home. And then we have one more that as soon as we get them hired and get them kind of off probation, then they can start taking a car home too. They live within the required mileage.
Yeah, I always pass one on my way home from work, so usually up by Portland Road, so. Give them the word I was going to Independence.
Give away using all 5.
I have always used all 5 when I pass you in the mornings, Mark.
That's all I had.
Okay, Counselor Donahue. Nothing? Okay. How about them Blazers?
Seriously? Middle of a meeting.
Okay, Counselor Sorga, beat that.
So I had, as you know, this morning, I had probably about 5 or 6 folks message me about getting notified if there was any safety concerns about the suspect being loose. And so I said, I have no idea. I guess things are okay. I don't know. So I figured I'd ask you before I gave an answer. So is there a threat to the community?
No, not really. No more than we had before the crime occurred.
Okay.
It's an active investigation. They're not releasing any information.
I don't understand.
In fact, the text that I sent you was the press release that the sheriff's office sent out today. Being a small agency, I don't have the capacity to bring 15 investigators to bear to investigate a homicide. So I had to rely on the Marion County Sheriff's Office, Kaiser Police, Oregon State Police, and everybody else who came along. And since they're basically taking the lead, they're also the ones who are deciding with in cooperation and in concert with the Marion County District Attorney's Office in order to release information. So I thought I was doing good to be able to include Mount Angel Police in the news release. So,
Right, no, I totally understand. Just was figuring.
yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, investigations like this are complex. And they need to be kept confidential. And I realize that in a community like this, that's awful hard to do sometimes. And I also know that you are under extreme pressure based on culture and a variety of other things to give information. So I recognize that and I understand, but.
No, and I haven't, so just said, no, I'll find out tonight.
I was approached by one of the board members last night, about the Little St. Joe's preschool and told them that it would be safe to operate the school. There's nothing that we have any actual information on that places any of our community in any additional danger.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe to put folks at ease, maybe we could have sent out an Eventbrite saying that, yeah, go about your business or whatever.
Said what I could say.
All right. Sounds good.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you. Counselor Fowl,
Got kind of a list tonight, I'm sorry.
knock it out.
You say you knocked out 3 of them.
3 of 8. Couple things. First of all, Mark, thank you for the updates that despite the lack of information for obvious reasons, just the fact that you made us aware, was appreciative. I got your text and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then I started getting the phone calls and the text messages and the nudge at the deli and, all the above. So just being aware that something was going on and being able to say, I don't know, I just know it happened is unfortunately all we could say, but that was more than done. So that was number 1. Number 2, Mr. Wall, your news tonight was very disappointing.
Oh,
And
not for me.
so so we touched on some of these questions, but so the overlay, we at least have a clear scope out to contractors, so we'll get quote unquote apples to apples on this one. So they're all bidding the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I just received a quote this morning. For what we talked about, just going down to 2 inches and, just for temporary until we get possibly.
something that'll last 3 to 4 years so that we can then do it right with grant money. Okay.
And then I'm meeting on Thursday with another contract.
Okay, excellent. And then, so we're still waiting on the information as to what needs to be written and who to submit it to from Mr. Root. Correct? He was gonna provide. We had discussed writing a grant to get the funds to
Yeah.
correct the railroad the proper way.
Right.
But we're waiting on what we need to write, who we need to submit it to still.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm waiting to hear from him about where I can look at what the grant is, what the grant requirements are,
Okay.
so I can start writing.
excellent. So if we can nudge him, I'd like to offer any assistance I can in getting that done. Last 2 things is sidewalk deficiencies. Is there a point where the city can? I know we have the assistance program for when homeowners want to fix sidewalks. Is there a point where when tree roots have buckled sidewalks and they're posing trip hazards, is there a point where we can kind of be a little more pressuring in getting the sidewalks fixed? Or if we require it, are we on the hook for the bill?
We have seen some success through our code enforcement. Particularly on Elm Street, if you look up there was a section of sidewalk that nobody could walk on because it was like this because of a tree and tree roots. And my guys wrote the property owners a very well worded letter, which saw some swift and decisive action on behalf of the property owner to
Okay,
remedy the situation. So, yeah, in as much as we can do that.
okay. I was just curious, cause obviously walking a lot, there's some definite trip hazards, and then that led me to my next thought, which is, do we have any update as far as when ODOT has any intentions of coming through town with their accessibility upgrades to
2 years.
2 years? Okay, so quit asking, got it. I'll put that one on the back burner.
And since you have worked with ODOT and other state agencies, they say soon, but
Yeah,
when I
so
said,
that's a flex.
I said, what's soon? And they said, well, 2 years.
Okay, excellent, okay, that was one of the questions. And then the last one is actually, I think, as much for Pete as it is for Mark. So I was thinking the other day and I realized it's been a year for me here. And I realized that, and I don't remember if it was transportation specifically or if it was completely infrastructure, but there was like a subcommittee that was updating the infrastructure or the transportation plan. We had discussed this when I first came on.
Well, I guess it still exists. We haven't met the infrastructure committee.
So the infrastructure committee, so we did not meet last year. So I just wanted to bring it up so that we could discuss making sure that we address it this coming year.
I agree.
And that's all I have at the moment.
Councilor Holcomb.
Will there be, sorry, will the infrastructure committee be working in tandem with the master plan?
I want to talk about that when I get to my report, so, yeah. Okay, nothing. Okay. We have no student counselor tonight, so we'll skip that. Now we'll go to me. I had what I thought was an excellent meeting with our city manager, city engineer, public works director, administrative services director, and a cast of thousands about the master planning process. Because I've been getting some questions about that. And we authorized the water plan, which is necessary because it's probably first and foremost on, but we didn't authorize specifically how to do the other plans. Or what we had some costs on some of them, but overall, and I had some questions on it. It's gonna be, it would be close to redoing everything. It would be close to $500,000 when we're all said and done. So we discussed alternatives to that. And there are alternatives. We don't have to do necessarily a full plan from scratch. I think we have authorized the water, but we can do updates. We have some options. In other words, I'll just leave it at that. And so one thing that we thought about when we were done with that was we need to have, in my opinion, and I think the staff's as well, a work session of some type with the council, because we're the ones that are going to be ultimately responsible for funding and doing those projects. So, so we talked about having a workshop. I think we need to have it separate from a council meeting because there's a lot of issues to talk about. And so we were talking about, do we do it and have a special night meeting to do it? Or do we take like part of a Saturday to do it? And I don't care, as long as we have that as our only subject of an evening, and we get to sit around and talk about it and ask questions and figure out some alternatives. And so what I want you to do is let's discuss whether we want to do it as a special night meeting or a Saturday meeting or, I'm biased towards a Saturday meeting, but I don't have a life, so, but, anyway, so I want us to do it. I want it to do it when we can try and get everyone there so that we're all on the same page. But as I mentioned in my little speech, in order to move forward, we need to have those things there. How do you set goals when you don't know what you need? So that's kind of where we are. Did I leave anything out? You were there, so any of you?
No, the only thing I think I'll just add on the top is our new city engineer is very willing and really is kind of excited about coming in and having that conversation with everyone. Talk about the plans and the definition of an updated plan and what's really required. And no, we don't have to spend a lot of money on X, Y, and Z when we can just find certain areas within existing plans, fine tune them, but then freshen it up good enough, honestly, so that we can qualify for grants and those types of things. We can say, yes, we have updated plans, so that we're not, 15 years out from the last time that we've had a plan update. So he can walk us through as a collective group on probably the prioritization and, truly what's most important for the community. And, kind of think about a timeline for attacking the plans. And are there any other things that we can do as opposed to this plan or that plan? So I think it's a really good opportunity to have some good conversation, but then for us all to learn a little bit more about this planning process and to get us further down the line than where we've been in quite a while, and really try to work towards, a strategic plan for the city. I think that's really, really important, especially when it comes to budgeting. Who knows what the economy is going to do in the future, but it would certainly be very nice to have a list based on our plans, our master plans, our strategic plans, to know where we're going as a community, so that we can prioritize service, maybe we can prioritize capital improvement projects to really improve the city and continue our progress forward.
Go, jump in.
Yeah, I got two things. One is, I agree that whatever we can do to fine tune the master plans to be as economical as possible. Working for a state agency, I know that we've gone through and done full-blown master plans, but unfortunately, by the time you're ready to act on anything within the master plan is then too old. So I hate doing the full meal deal on certain plans we know we need, but we're not ready for them quite yet. As far as the evening versus the Saturday, it purely depends upon the flexibility. I can tell you for the next 2 months, I have 2 basketball coaches in my house. So every Saturday for the next 2 months, there will be a conflict, but potentially we can work around it.
Okay. Tony, what do you think about Saturday or evening?
Saturday evenings, if I can get out of here by 9 o'clock to get to work, that's fine with me.
No, I mean, Saturday versus an evening.
Oh, Saturdays is a no-go. We have my kid's on one of his teams.
No.
Wherever he goes, I go.
He's my Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah, so we got that, and then evenings are fine as long as I'm out by 9.
Okay,
Usually have to be at work.
so we had a little like 6 to 9 workshop on a weekday that worked.
Ray's bringing it. So.
Sure. Right over there.
Yeah,
Right there.
it's close.
Yeah, that would be.
Okay. Right,
That mean we could start like at 6?
I think that would be,
6 o'clock.
I think if we're all there and we're all talking that night, it's gonna probably be about a 3-hour meeting. But I agree with, I thought the city engineer was great because we were talking about some alternatives to doing full-fledged plans, which, I mean, the bill on that, I wrote them down, that's how I knew how much the water plant. It's extraordinary. So, but in order to qualify for funding, we need to have updated plans, so we can't ignore it. But there are alternatives, so. So night works for you, you too? Okay. So I'd like to do it sometime. I'd like to do it by mid-February, so. Sometime.
This is a work session, is there a public meeting notice?
It's a public meeting, but. So,
Shoot for second half of January.
yeah, I'm. Yeah,
The back half of this month.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I'm thinking through it, if we could do it in the second 2 weeks of this month, that would probably be the least amount of conflicts.
what if we did it like the last weekend in January? I can't do it the third weekend, but. Is that
What night?
Monday, Tuesday?
February 29th is the last Monday.
No, this month, right?
We want to do
Did I say,
Yeah, January 29th.
yeah, January 29th is a Monday,
Monday.
the 30th is a Tuesday, and the last day of the month is the 31st on a Wednesday.
Oh, yeah,
I can do the. I can do the 29th or the 30th. If we do the 29th, I'll be fine with the site.
30th is fine for me as well. I can deal with that.
you think?
All right, we'll reach out to the city engineer and we'll tentatively set it for January 30th.
Okay. And also, we don't, because it's a late Monday, we'll have a week off before we have a council meeting, so it'll be fine. Okay, well, that's really all I had, and I thank you for that, and I'm looking forward to it, so.
And so does council want to have dinner that night here?
mm,
I think I can train with this, I'm saying.
Maybe something to snack on, I don't know. but drinks.
City can purchase something.
We'll have sliders. I just
It's no coleslaw.
want to know if you'd be interested in just having something to eat while we talk.
Sure, I want it to be relaxed and casual, so yeah.
Treat ourselves.
All right, we'll do that. Thank
Like
you.
a nice bottle of Fiji rum, so. Oh, wait, we can't.
The public meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay, so that's all I have, and with that, unless anybody has anything else for the good of the order, I'm going to adjourn. We are adjourned.
Thank you, council.
Thank you all.
Mark, it's like reading my mind.